back, and you don't Steve, yeah, get these kids use there like they have.
Yeah.
I told her how much. Three-story.
Yeah, my
My should not last 3 weeks.
good.
She thought it was.
Just found out.
I said, we're putting a driveway in, just wondered if maybe you could take the driveway out.
Are we? All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order today. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone will stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Jenny, would you do the roll call, please?
Brown, absent prior notice. Fenlon.
Present.
Black.
Here.
Yoder, absent prior notice. Miller, absent prior notice. Nixon.
Here.
Creaky.
Here.
Bailey. Here. Kaiser.
Here.
Logan.
Here.
And Rowe.
Here. Thank you. First, I'll just have a consideration of the agenda. If anyone has any changes they'd like to see.
I move we approve the agenda as presented here tonight.
That's secretary. All right. Motion by Mr. Nixon, seconded by Mr. Rutto. I believe it was Stephen. You did second that, yeah? I did. Okay, just want to be sure. All right, with that, we can move on to conflicts of interest. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, all in favor. Consideration agenda. Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Moving on, conflict of interest, which it sounds like we have some discussion to be had here this evening. I'll just let you guys announce them yourselves. So,
Well, I will have a conflict of interest because I serve on the planning commission in Sutton Bay and am available for answering questions, but I can't participate in discussion. But I'm very able and notorious zoning administrator Steve Batmore is here, and he will be able to answer every question.
So I might have a perceived conflict of interest. I don't attend the meetings of the Peninsula Housing Board where I stand on the board, so I don't vote in any issues there. I have no financial gain from any of the activities of Peninsula Housing. So I don't feel like I have a conflict, but you guys have to decide.
if anyone wants to have a discussion, that's open. I'll wait until there's discussion, then I'll jump in.
And I would feel it'd be a perception of a conflict.
That's what I said,
because he is-
perception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is your husband, and in terms of financial gain, you know, development itself, I don't know if it would provide you any resources or not. But I'd be a little concerned, maybe more than concerned, I am concerned that your presence at planning commission meetings have been important in support of Larry. And I would suggest that maybe it's a conflict.
Any other discussion? Being that Jenny and I talked just briefly earlier, but I also agree that it could be perceived, but I think that unless there's a consensus beyond Mr. Nixon's comments, that I really would leave it up to Commissioner Bailey. I'm not aware of any financial benefit for her in terms of being part of the decision-making process, other than being, in the same household.
Yep.
I value your input, and I think that it's ultimately your decision unless there is a general consensus that that's a conflict. Go ahead, Steve.
I think it's important to talk about this,
Yeah.
but the Michigan Planning Enabling Act talks about statements that we need to make, which are results of this meeting. And there's, the only thing is that you need to do is to, in the words of that act, is to make a statement of consistency. We're not approving anything. And in fact, I think staff does that for us on our behalf each time by answering a set of questions that leads us to the decision of whatever we're reviewing being consistent or not consistent. So I think this is an important part of, from my perspective, you know, having taken that training on the, you know, the citizens planner training and realizing what the language says, also relates to conflicts of interest, I think, because we're not voting on what was submitted to us as being okay or approving it, because that's not our authority.
Mm-hmm.
What we're voting on is it inconsistent with what's being asked of us, the Michigan Planning Enabling Act. So I guess that, you know, this is a good timing for me because I don't see a conflict of interest, an actual conflict of interest. I think there's an idea out there that we have authority more than we have. And I've seen it expressed before. And I think that's just something that we need to, as a body, be clear about when people come and listen to us, what we really have to do here. So I'm not sure how it relates to, you know, the need for someone to state a real conflict of interest, because I just don't see it in this case.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Riddle. Commissioner Logan, do you have any comments or right there? Okay. Not trying to push, just if you have anything, now's the time. Otherwise, I think we can move on and Lois can be involved. I don't think that, I think us having the discussion is the most important part.
I think so too.
Go ahead, Mel.
I'm probably out of order, but correct me if I am. I didn't hear you mention consideration of agenda. And I wanted to bring something up and I'd like to. I don't know if I can, but if I'm going to state what I want to talk about and then you tell me if I want to do it, I guess. Is that okay?
Proceed.
I've been following this story in Leelanau about the Bible club over there that wants to start. And this last article in a local paper here is giving me a lot of thought about it, because I'm a little concerned that the board over there, I don't know if it's the board or their planning commission, voted for almost unanimous to deny them the right to have that Bible club. I feel that the taxpayers are going to pay a dear penalty. I don't know how far I can talk here. Stop me if I'm out of order, but
No, I appreciate your
I'm
honesty.
concerned that because they took this vote, there's federal laws involving religious organizations. And I think we're right on the threshold of getting sued. And the taxpayers are going to pay dearly for what the planning commission over there has done in Leelanau. And because we're the county planning commission, can we talk about it or can we discuss it? I'm already talking too much about it. I'd hate to see the taxpayers, if you read the article in the last paper here that came out last week's issue, you'll see that the writer of the article indicated that the taxpayers of Leelanau could pay dearly for the actions of that group. So I don't know if we can bring that on the agenda and talk about it more. Maybe I've said plenty. I don't know, but as a planning commission, I think that perhaps we should, the board should know our feelings, and maybe I'm the only one that feels this way. I hate to see it. I got a call from my son because the young man that came up there and started this Bible study is from his city. And he called me, he says, they're asking to go to court. That's what my son said. Can that be put on the agenda or not?
Short answer is no,
Okay.
because we had already passed the agenda. I also was on that board and part of that decision, so I'm certainly not comfortable discussing that without,
Okay,
talking to Gail possibly first or
well,
someone
I
else.
did call Gail.
But, for tonight, I think, I appreciate your comments, heard you for sure. But, for now, I think it's just not appropriate, certainly not for me.
right.
And so we'll table that for now. And with that,
I had some.
go ahead, Mr.
I
Creed.
think that it goes back to the comments that we had a little earlier. That the purview of this planning commission is not to judge what goes on in the township. I mean, that's township business. That's not county business. And as such, I would say it doesn't belong on this agenda. Although philosophically, I'm pretty favorable to your concerns. But it doesn't belong here. This is the wrong body to do that.
Appreciate your comments, Mr. Creepy. With that, we'll move on. Public comment. I see we have a few folks here. I don't know if anyone's here for
Staff comment.
public comment, and if there is, please come forward and state your name, and we'll provide 3 minutes for public comment. Okay, so no public comment at this time. Staff comments. Jenny, do you want to kind of lead us here a little bit?
So planning will be working on the annual report. So if you have any training hours that you completed in 2025, please send them our way so we can start working on that report for you.
2025.
Correct. We'll be working on the 2025 annual report.
Good evening, everybody.
Green?
My name is Patrick Roach. I'm your new facilities director, new as of last year. And I looked at this packet, and I think 16 out of 16 of these are mine. I think that's why they made my job. So a lot of times, from various departments, they have ideas, they have suggestions. In particular, especially this year, the sheriff will make some recommendations. Parks makes plenty of recommendations. And the CIP, I think, is becoming a vehicle, for our, as part of our strategic planning. And so what you guys do, you get these on the calendar, you get these on the schedule for us. And what I do each year is I add or update these, and then I'll champion 2 or 3 during my budget planning process. But since they're all mine, I wanted to make myself available for you guys to answer any questions or any clarifications as you go through this process. Because I know sometimes, the telephone game, sometimes, some of these things are a little obscure. They're new, they're different. And I just want to make myself available to elaborate if need be.
Excellent. Thanks for being here.
That's all I have.
Steve, you have any comments right now? Or?
Are you
Introduce
gonna
yourself.
have questions for me, or
Not
you
yet.
want me to make a overview, or?
Well, we'll get into the new business.
Okay.
First, any other comments, Jenny?
Oh, I just have one.
Go ahead, man.
And I apologize, I should have said this earlier.
Okay.
On page 37 of 39 at the end, I had to submit this before, I took it before the Board of Commissioners. And about 2/3 of the way down, the Board of Commissioners approved a split of $80,000 for the request for the grant. And then that leaves the county on the hook for $93,650. So that's what I got approved to ask for.
Was you talking about a change?
Yeah.
In, was that, sorry, 26-13?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So just your numbers changed to
The split changed, yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to a consideration of February 2024, February 24th, 2026 meeting minutes. Francis, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay. Mr. Logan,
Looks good, nothing to add.
Mr. Reynolds,
No comments.
Nothing?
Bailey.
So on the last page of the minutes, the Parks and Rec report, Bailey reports that we will begin to have meetings in the park. Well, I think that almost sounds like we're moving our meetings, our meetings in the park. Plan to hold a meeting in each park just to get public input in that particular vicinity on that park. Does that make any sense?
Do you want it to read a certain way then, or they will begin to hold meetings?
Plan to hold a meeting in each park,
Okay,
which will allow them to ask questions of for community input.
perfect. Any of that good? Okay. Mel, do you have anything?
Nothing.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Good with that.
So moved with the additions as recommended by Ms. Bailey.
Motion by Mr. Nixon,
Yes, support.
Mr. Logan. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And we do not have any old business this evening, which brings us right into new business. Item 1, PC 04-2026-011, Sutton's Bay Township Text Amendment, Neighborhood Residential District, which is pages 5 through 10 in the packet. I will defer to Steve in terms of, you did have your own staff report, I'm assuming this.
Just a brief introduction. This is something that Suttons Bay Township has been working on for a long time, ever since they approved the master plan in 2011. Various planners have started work on the neighborhood residential concept. It was intended to be areas close to the village of Suttons Bay, kind of a transition between the village and less dense areas of the township. So there's been quite a few different drafts that have gone through the ages. And just in the past year, things got serious and they drafted this article that's in front of you. And we have, as you know, from the rezoning request, we have a potential interested party in being in that district and with a forthcoming project. So like any zoning language, this was back and forth, a lot of different inputs. There was compromises made, things added and taken out. But I think in the end, it's a draft that'll really work and give somebody some flexibility. And we tried to make it simple. You know, we're not doing planned unit developments or anything like that. We're making, if you want to do a development, it's a special land use permit. And with that said, any project that comes before us is going to go through that review process again, and with more public hearings and site plan review. So this is just the language that enables us to have that district. And it's a new district. And we're kind of excited about it.
Excellent, thank you, Steve. Any commissioner questions for Steve?
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm new, so I'm learning. Some of the language is something I don't understand in the application. It talks about, there's a statement here on page 23 of 39 at the top. It says, also, please note that Suttons Bay Township cannot impose conditions on a rezoning request that are not offered voluntarily in writing by the applicant. I don't know what that means.
Okay, so when somebody asks for their property to be rezoned, and that's actually your second item on your agenda, but the township cannot impose, that's part of the state statute, the zoning enabling act or planning enabling act, that says any conditions on a rezoning have to be voluntary. And there's actually a term called conditional rezoning. So on that rezoning request, which we're gonna talk about in a little while, we as a township couldn't place conditions on it. It's either yes or no. Yes, we recommend rezoning, or no, we don't recommend it. That's what that, and I hope I made sense, but that's one of the few times that we as a township cannot impose conditions on a project. That's rezoning. Yes.
Isn't this a rezoning request?
The first part of the request is to establish language for that district. The second part of the request is to rezone a particular piece of property to that district. So yeah, the second part is a rezoning.
Thank you. That's what I missed.
Okay.
Any others? I saw, Mr. Henry.
So the property in question, there was one comment in the letter from someone talking about, does this include the whole, did it include the whole township as opposed to the proposed area? Is that been addressed, or being able the whole township
Yeah.
being rezoned, or will it just?
No.
It's a particular,
Just one property at this
that's the
time.
one, that's
Right.
the district, the one property by Herman Park.
Right, and then other people in that area. So when the master plan went into effect, it identified an area that in the future could be this district. And that's, well, it's a relatively not big, huge area, but along Herman Road, there's properties. This property is right in the middle of that area that was envisioned to be possibly neighborhood residential.
So is
So,
this?
but we're only talking about one property right now.
But if this passed, would it be just that particular property they're talking about?
Correct.
Would it be all the areas?
Just the
Envision.
one property. Other people could come in and petition and
They need
they,
a special land use permit.
To do,
well, no, they would have to rezone their property first.
so the other people in the area that was designated would have to apply just like this.
Correct.
Get additional areas.
Correct,
It doesn't encumber the whole township.
correct.
Okay.
The township could have gone that route and rezoned the area, but they decided not to.
Good question, Scott. Any other
I'm a
questions?
little confused.
Go ahead, Francis.
Aren't we first have to talk about the wording that's in the zoning ordinance, right?
Yes, yes,
That's one subject. And the discussion that we just had is relative to a rezoning request,
correct.
right? That's the
Correct.
second
Yeah.
discussion. So we're kind of complaining.
We're trying to
Right.
find them. There's some
Yeah.
confusion there,
Yeah.
but no, I appreciate your comments.
I'll take any question, but you're right, the second part can't happen without the first part.
Absolutely.
And the first part is to get the language in place.
Yes.
The second part is we had a request from a property owner to rezone a particular property to that district. So it's two different requests.
I'll have some other comments when we get to
Okay.
the subject.
So basically what we're talking about is draft Article 6, pages 5 through 10 first. So we kind of focus on that and then get to the second issue.
Yep.
So, I mean, I sat in at the planning commission meeting and they're going through all this language and back and forth and up and down on individual words. And I think they gelled it all out and got it clean in this copy. I like it, so thank you. In the first paragraph, there's a little typo at the under intent and purposes where it says sidewalks and then. a capital.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, there should be a comment.
Very,
So,
very simple
yeah,
thing there. And there was a lot of discussion about using may or shall in different stipulations in language. And then kind of leaving yourself out, the planning commission will have the opportunity to reduce, like in parking, may approve a reduction in parking. So they leave the planning commission some flexibility with whatever the project is that comes to it, which I think is is a great thing to do. And it's gratifying to feel Sutton's Bay Township is in the game on trying to allow for density and smaller units to make workforce housing. So that's what I see about this. It's like, yay, we need this all over. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the first item? Does everyone feel pretty good? Do we want to entertain a motion if we're ready for that?
I just have,
Sure, I'm open
Sure.
to
comments. They're not substances, they're just clarity more than anything else. And hopefully I'm on the right. So I confused the first question I had with what section of the agenda we're on here. The text amendment. This idea of short-term rentals. You know, when I read through the section 6.2 permitted uses, short-term rentals is not permitted. So then I go to the next section, continues with short-term rentals under permitted uses, and then says they're not permitted. So it just seems to me that that's misplaced there.
Okay.
For clarity purposes, if it's under permitted uses, why is something not permitted under permitted uses? The other, I guess, point of clarification would be in number 13, then on page 6 of 39, it talks about, it makes reference to the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, and then talks about Article 16 there.
Yeah.
So that it does refer to then that is Article 16 in this act, I'm assuming.
In our zoning ordinance, so maybe I should clarify, that's Article 16 in our zoning ordinance, okay. Thank
you. This is exactly the point. I think that we need to know what you're referencing. And then the next page, on page 7, it also under section 6.4 talks about special land uses and makes another reference to in Article 20 of this ordinance without a reference to what this ordinance is.
Okay,
Would be helpful to make that reference.
Where was that again? Sorry.
That's on page 7 of 39, it's section 6.4, special land uses, talks about Article 20.
Okay, I see that first paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate that, because I know exactly what it means.
You
but-
shortened it up.
But we want to make this for the
Clear.
lay person to
Yes.
be able to read.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I appreciate
First
that.
time I read this, since I'm not used to it, it'd just be helpful for
Okay.
references. And I guess the section then above that in 6.3 gets back to the short-term rentals again. This talks about prohibited uses in the district. You know, and so, you know, it does fit there, I guess.
Right,
It does fit there.
I get it, because it's almost redundancy, it being in the permitted uses saying it's not permitted, but then right
Yeah.
after that, it's not.
Talks about,
It's not allowed anyway.
Okay.
That's a good
That's a good
catch.
point.
Yeah.
and again, I think our commission wanted it to be very clear that they were not promoting short-term rental. Because this district creates an incentive to create housing, but they didn't want it to be created for the purpose of short-term
Right, of
rentals.
course. Of course, that house makes way more sense, so. Great. So, any further discussion on the first new business item? Anyone prepared to make a motion?
I would make a motion to approve that first business item with the suggested modifications.
You have a motion by Mr. Ruddle. Any support? Support from Mr. Heiser? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Now we're moving right into new business 2, which is PC 05-2026-011, Bay Township rezoning agricultural zoning district to neighborhood residential zoning district. That part, 11:31. Open the discussion.
Sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Creedy.
The parcel that's being rezoned. Well, let me back up. I'm very much in favor of what you want to do. The parcel that's being rezoned. Is that just peninsula housing, or is there a bigger area being rezoned?
The request came from Peninsula Housing to
Yeah.
rezone that piece of property.
I understand that.
And our philosophy is gonna be, if you want your property to be in this district, you will come to the township. And they will evaluate each property one by one. The township does have the authority to wave a wand and rezone a certain area under, with, following the procedure, but they, in this case, some of it was timing. We all know Peninsula Housing has a project they're trying to get done. So the simplest way was to have them ask for their property. So, but we are gonna, I don't know if the word encourages, but we're gonna, if somebody else wants to rezone it, they have their property into this district. You know, we will look at that application.
So the parcel that's next to or contiguous to this, right, is farm right now, rural or something of that nature. It's not a residential.
No, the whole area, that whole area is zoned agricultural right
Okay.
now.
So the parcel next to this could come in and ask for commercial or residential.
They would probably ask for this zone, but they could, everybody has the right to ask for anything, and if you meet the you saw the criteria in the staff report
Yeah.
that we look, but and then the main thing we look at as a township is the master plan, the future land use, and I think the adjacent properties are in that area that was designated on the future land uses neighborhood.
Again, please don't take it that.
No,
Okay, I think what I was taught is you have to be very careful about spot zoning. Right, and this reeks of it. And I think it's just a word of caution.
right. No,
I'm still good.
and I understand, it's just, it's the main thing we looked at is the future land use map in this, but it is one property. It's kind of an island that's gonna be zoned differently than the land around it. So I don't disagree with the spot zoning,
Yeah.
if that's the definition, but it does meet the master plan. That was future land
If you
use.
found 2 acres on the other side of town, and applied that zoning, then
Except the
you're
only,
beside that.
the only area in our township that's got,
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't need to debate that.
okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question. Go ahead, Steve. Yeah, looking at the Mansfield, maps that were part of this packet that we given.
Okay,
And I'm looking at page, I'm not sure which one you have. It's called the existing zoning map on here. The subject parcel is zoned agriculture.
correct.
On that entire photo, there's only one parcel that's zoned residential. Going over to the application, or at least the rezoning document we're reviewing here. On page 23 and 29 of our packet, it makes a statement, there's rezoning, and there's a series of statements here, A through J, that just is a checklist that I think that you go through. In A, it says the proposed rezoning is consistent with the surrounding uses. And the first bullet point is the surrounding area is predominantly residential. So when I look at that map and I look at that statement, they don't seem consistent. So it comes down to, you know, what is the surrounding area? How big is it? It may be bigger than
You
what's
zoom
on
out.
this map.
Right, and that's,
So that's, I guess, I'm
Yeah.
trying to get, is this predominantly residential or is it, as this map indicates, it's predominantly ag?
I think the plant, it's zoned agricultural, but I think the use of the property is predominantly residential.
This
And I
is-
think that's what the planning commission,
The surrounding area is predominantly residential. Is that?
that's what the planning commission,
Or in your opinion?
for the most part, yes.
Okay. So it's just really a visual that doesn't match the statement that I'm just.
well, and essentially, people can live in ag districts, right? So most of that land is not farm land. It's actually just people living there, even if they have 10 acres or whatever it is.
I mean, there is
That's what they
some,
mean about saying residential, not that it's zoned residential, but the actual use of the land is
I see.
just for living. If it were farming, it'd be, that, the answer to that question would be different.
right, and there are some farms in the area, it's not entirely residential. There are some farms, but
Thank you.
We'll probably just go down the line. You were right, Mr. Rowe, but Heiser, do you have anything to add or?
Love the way you're approaching it. Makes a nice job to allow. No, I'm applauding how you structured this. You could control each property as it comes in. It was designated potentially go from ag to.
I think it
Provides a lot of control over the projects.
can be kind of a barrier to a lot of those concerns that folks
Right.
have rightfully.
And you can
have.
address each citizen's issue as they come up and not just broad brush it all.
Mr. Logan?
I think it looks good. The village is gonna grow. It serves the purpose for the housing issues. It's about right to the village property, or the area. It's 3 parcels actually that are right next door to this one that are residential. So it's just making a bigger footprint for residential housing, and you're giving the PUD, the ability to make that development. I've watched this thing move through brownfield for the last year, and it's nice to see the development come to fruition.
Yeah,
For the good of the entire area.
yeah, thank you.
And I don't think the plan looks well thought.
Excellent. Appreciate your comments. Steve, if you have anything else?
I don't.
Okay. Mr. Nixon?
No.
Oh. I don't have any questions for you at this time either, so thank you. Ms. Bailey?
It's getting us there to housing. So, great, keep moving forward.
I think one of the things, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just get the feeling that what you're doing is cleaning up something that should have been done probably some time ago.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
We've been working on this for a while, and you know how things work in the planning level, not quick. One thing I was gonna just mention in the language, which we've already done, is the planning commission struggled with affordability and defining all of that. And one thing they did do was they put in this district, there's a maximum house size if you use that special use option. So we're hoping that by putting a cap on the house size, we're gonna make things a little more affordable, rather, somebody's not gonna do this special use permit and build 2,500 square foot houses. They're limited to 1,200.
And that keeps the price of the house down.
Right. I'm hoping that helps.
Yeah, I think it looks great. I have no other comments. And I'd entertain a motion if we're ready for that. Second. Please.
I move that we accept its entirety.
Recommended approval.
Never approved.
Okay. We got a motion by Mr. Heiser, supported by Mr. Black. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. And thank you for the comments.
Okay, Patrick, this might be your moment.
Your moment to
I'm
shine.
just getting a hot seat. You guys, I'll speak when I'm spoken.
So yeah, no, I just figured it'd come up that way. It's heavy on page. So we'll move into our third new business item this evening, which is the 2027 to 2031 CIP proposed projects. And this was previously sent, but it's also part of the packet, pages 32 to 39. And so we can begin the process of running through those. Jenny, do you want me to just start from the first one, or do you have anything you want to add?
Just that Pat is here if you have any questions. Definitely great to have Pat.
Awesome, thank you.
Jenny, I have a question for you. What's the method?
You should have gotten the ranking sheet.
And I rank them.
Perfect.
So tell me what to expect going forward on how we get to choose collectively, how we get to that set of recommendations.
So you'll go over each submittal. So I did provide in the packet the summary of each submittal. Earlier this week, I sent the entire applications that were submitted for you to review. We'll go through each project and I will go ahead and state each number's name, and you can give me what number you rank it. At the end, we'll see what the average is, and that's what will be ranked for the record of the minutes. That makes sense?
So it's an average of votes.
Correct.
Rounded to the,
Okay.
proper. Can't have like a 3.5, so.
Right.
So we'll figure that out as needed.
So the average then will create the ranking.
Yes, and then once you gather this ranking information, staff will create a much larger chart for you to review. That'll probably be either next meeting or your June meeting, and then that goes to the BOC for
Their budget dealings.
And then decide.
All right, everyone kind of understand the process. I know a number of us have been through this before. This will be my fourth time doing this, but the first time chairing this committee. So help me out if I steer astray. We'll be all right. So it looks like the first one I have is the modular tile carpet replacement, and that's a new project for 2027. And looks like the anticipated start date is 2028. And I'll try to just kind of briefly highlight these. They're gonna do carpet tiles, glue down. It's like a 58,000 square feet, and reasons for that being, the justifications, and then the cost. Project timeline through 2028. So looks like they're kind of ready to get working on this if they'll approve it. So Patrick, do you have anything to add for that?
Yeah, this was kind of brought up when I gave my budget proposal last summer. One of the commissioners said that they were surprised that they didn't see anything for carpet replacement. And so I said, I'll get you one. And so the idea of this is to do it kind of phased in. So it could be spread over a couple of years, go section by section. So it would kind of be a contract. So you'd approve the contract, but you could phase it. So I put phase it through like Q3 of 27 through Q3 of 28. And so,
Do we have any idea, and you're new, so I'm sorry for this question, but is there a life cycle? How long does this carpet last?
I happen to have the guy who was here when it was built. And how long did they tell you it was supposed to last?
25 years.
Yeah, so you're gonna find that with a lot of these things, it's kind of like having a car that hits 80,000 miles, like still running great, but I gotta replace this seal, gotta replace, that mechanism. And that's kind of happening with a lot of our infrastructure. And you'll see that evident as we proceed across all these. This is just one of those things. Is worn in places. I think you could start in areas and phase it in. That's up to the board of commissioners though, if they want to change how it's
Does that
implemented.
impact the cost of your buying? piecemeal versus doing?
You want to set it up so it's one consistent contract. I did see that they use a 100%, I think they call it, there's a special word that they use for it, but what it basically means is they take everything that we get rid of back. So once you get the new system in, I don't know what happens to this carpet. Hopefully it's recycled. But with the tile carpet, when we have bad tiles, we give it back to them. They reprocess them to become tiles again.
And so we don't have tile now,
No, we've got
just wall to wall.
yeah. So we typically, if we have a really bad worn part, you do your best to match a patch.
So actually, I'm sorry, I didn't articulate well. If we do it piecemeal over, let's say, a 3-year period, do we lose discount? Do we get a bigger discount if we buy it all at once from the manufacturer?
Well, I mean, that would be based on whatever contract we could negotiate, but inflation says, yeah,
And fine.
yeah. But like I'm preempting this a little bit. There's a lot of infrastructure things. There's big numbers on some of these. And so that's what the board is really going to have to triage, is because there's a lot of these for 300,000 plus, on things that the clock is kind of it's coming due on a lot of maintenance items.
So is this a nice to have or a?
Well, you put me on the spot.
Yeah. Well, it's part of the, I mean, there's other things on here, so that's just get it.
There's areas, I think the law enforcement center has seen a lot more traffic than we have here.
Okay.
That could be one way to do it. Those don't necessarily have to match in color and design. I mean, that would be one way to approach it, as you could say, well, we'll approve it for the law enforcement center, and then we'll review, we'll separate the courthouse contract into something else.
So some years ago, there was a move to replace carpeting in the law enforcement center. Did that get done? So this is addition to.
This is that would be before my time. I don't believe it did. Jerry, can you confirm?
Okay, so
There
we
was
never did.
rubber flooring put in main hallway where the road patrol comes off the road. So a rubberized floor, which works great. In the main offices in front of the building, still carpet, but it's still wore and becoming more of a hazard over time, as we all know that happens. So this carpet square thing where you can replace them as you go is great. The only troubles you run into, if I may say, as they take a run, they make a run on anything, like carpet, whatever, so many thousand feet or hundreds of thousands. Once that run is done, the next one, if you want another one, try to match that. But it's hard to do, so it's kind of a crapshoot in a way. But at least you wouldn't have to tear up the whole floor. You got some problems behind where you folks are sitting right now on the floor there, I believe, on the carpet where some burn spots are.
So I would agree with phasing it. Certainly just trying to figure out costs in the jail that seems to have a lot of extra space over there. So that maybe puts that part down to a lower priority, even though that's in the worst condition. I don't know how you rate this there.
I don't know, we're gonna have to do it.
Yeah, I know, I know.
Francis, go ahead.
Just a point of clarification, in the last couple of years, we were told to the north cost in assessing our priorities. Is that,
I mean,
that's still the case?
to some extent, yes, because certain things will fit type or like a top one priority just because of laws and things that like we have to, we have to maintain certain infrastructure and blah, 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 and there's some liability there, et cetera. So certain things will fit into that and other things not. So it kind of depends. I mean, certainly in my opinion, if it's not a top tier thing, then I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that number as maybe a little bit more than, obviously if it's a number one, it's a number one. We capped the amount, I'm less concerned about. If it's arguably somewhere in the middle, then yeah, maybe I'm a little bit more concerned about the cost. But at the end of the day, we're not budgeters.
Yeah.
We're just how important is this? So try to ignore it for the most part if you can, because otherwise we're trying to figure out how to save money for the county. That's really their job, that we're just gonna rank them. Go ahead.
My question is, how many years are you talking for spreading this out? Are we paying for same timeframe?
That's
Not
not,
paying
that's,
for all upfront?
that would be up to the Board of Commission.
Yeah. The suggested thing is like starting in 2027 and then through 2028 is according to this.
What I ran is what it would cost to do it all. And then you can pick that apart as you need.
So I don't want to get too much in the weeds because we got a fair bit of these to get through. So if we can, I'll start with Lois, if you want to give me a ranking number here.
So I put it as a 3, that if you're starting in 2027 and phasing it, then, different phases will end up at different priorities. So I don't know how you.
No, don't worry about
put
that
on a
part.
list.
I get it. We're in a tricky spot, but
Yeah.
I'll take a 3.
Sure.
Mel,
Likewise with the 3.
Brown's absent. Creaky? 3. I'm gonna do mine last. Heiser? 3. Also 3. Mr. Logan?
Yep, I have 3.
Miller absent. Nixon?
Pretty consistent, a 3 also.
All right. Mr. Ruddle?
4.
I'm a 3 as well. That will make it a 3.
I just messed up the rounding here.
You want to just do averages later and we don't have to like,
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, it is what it is, so I don't really know right this minute, but. So that one done, we're gonna move on. This is the boardroom audio-visual system upgrade, and that's 2027 new project, trying to start about a year from now. And kind of self-explanatory, that's this. So we have some upgrades that we're kind of due for. Everything's listed in here. Timeline for next year. So I'll just go. If we can have short discussion if we want, and then otherwise we'll just go right down the line. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead, ask. And Mel, you want to start?
I go with the 2 on this one.
Lois?
Number 1, seems like getting any of our audiovisual video programming up to snuff so that we can have people attending remotely is very important. And we always seem to be slipping behind. It's a very expensive, I mean, the equipment never lasts as long as you like to think, well, electronics are always getting aged out.
Hmm.
You just have to start. So that's
Mr.
number
Creaky?
1.
3. Mr. Heiser?
3.
Mr. Logan?
I got a 2.
Mr. Nixon?
I have a 4.
Mr. Ruddle?
4.
I'm a 3. We'll figure out where that lands.
Okay.
I think the next one's pretty well related. Jump in, Patrick, if I'm misrepresenting any of these.
I just
please.
I don't want to influence it one way or the other. Just
No, but
tell you
I'm
facts.
not, if there's something that I'm not accurately depicting, just let me know. So this next one is the government center wireless box system, pretty self-explanatory. And it looks like 5 to 10 year maintenance-free wireless solution, so that's pretty.
The maintenance piece that I can give you about this item is that the controls that run, these are all plugged in clocks that are supposed to be synced. They're not capable now of being programmed anymore. The guy won't come out and do it, so it's obsolete. It's unable to be repaired. They're not making parts for the clock system, so consequently, you have to run around and make adjustments, and then the next day they're all out of sync again.
That turns into a cost, not effective.
Yeah.
Make one observation. It's 5 minutes fast.
Yeah.
I changed.
I suppose what we can do is we'll go down, and if people want to have discussion, just have discussion before you tell me your number, just so we're clear on anything's go a little smoother here. So I'm gonna jump down to you, Mr. Freaky. 4. You, Mr. Heiser.
I'd go with two, given it doesn't work. Thanks for the information.
And Mr. Logan,
Four, I think.
okay? Mr. Roto,
Four,
Mr. Nixon,
A 4,
Ms. Bailey,
I guess I'd say four as well. I'd just eliminate some clocks. I mean, this one's important because this whole room is looking at the same clock in here. But in many places, you don't use a clock, you've got a clock in your phone. Yeah. So
four it is.
four it is.
Okay,
Or-
Mr. Black,
Yes.
all right, I'm gonna follow suit. Four. We'll move on to the restroom. Inland restroom facility at Miles and Shirley Park, I'm guessing MKP is, so it's what it is. Yeah, that's pretty overdue, I think, for that park. Is that year round?
It would be seasonal. It might be, well, yeah, because we would shut off the,
Most of them are. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay, just a question. Same thing, we'll start down here with you, Mr. Black.
Well,
If you want to have discussion, that's fine.
yeah, I would give it a 3.
Ms. Bailey,
Can't make it any better than a 3, but I keep saying that we should collaborate with a housing project, because if you're gonna put in a septic and drain field system, it's so expensive. That if you used some of that 176 acres of Reynolds Community Park for some rental housing, you'd be serving your employees well. The sheriff, anybody who wants to hire somebody.
you say 3.
3,
Mr. Nixon,
I gave it a 3.
thank you. Mr. Roto,
3,
Mr. Logan,
3.
Mr. Heiser. Is that 3, sorry.
3, yes.
Mr. Creaky,
I think this was on here last year. Wasn't it? Anyway, I think that maintenance of our parks is an image setter for the county and the community. So I give it a 2.
thank you. I'm on the fence. I think it's really important, but I also realize the constraints of the budget process, and so I'm gonna go with 3. Moving on, park scheduling and pay system. It's also a new project. 3D self-explanatory. Looks like basically allowing people to rent space, is that right?
so the background on this is that this is still kind of at the Parks Commission, you know, in terms of their advisement. And I suggested you can have it be, you know, scale it any way you like. But the important part for this is to deconflict, you know, special events. Our parks are first come, first serve. And if you have larger, I think than 25, you're supposed to submit insurance for your activity. And this kind of finds a way to, it's a format for that. And then another little connection to one of the other ones is the audio visual portion uses something called Civics Plus. That's also available too. So there's some, what's the word I'm looking at, this compatibility that could be uniform with the audio visual that gets people access to the civic meetings. And then
Also,
as part of the same software is available, there are other ones, but there is one that connects, that's part of that suite as well.
It's just less confusion for the.
Yeah. It's mostly for organization.
Sure, great, thank you. Start here with Mr. Black.
Well, I know we talked about this quite a bit. I'm gonna go with 2.
Ms. Bailey,
I say a 1. It simplifies the man hours of trying to police all of our parks and users. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we'd be charging, but it would give us a tool.
Yeah,
And the idea that it is interfaced with other electronic systems makes it really important. And because of the amount of acreage we have in county parks and the underfunded situation in those parks,
Take anything we can get,
Yeah,
right?
yes, you know, it needs to be paid attention to, so I give it a number 1.
I appreciate that. Mr. Nixon?
I gave it a 4 because it's desirable. It could benefit the community. It's worthwhile if funding becomes available, but it can be postponed.
Thank you. Mr. Rowe?
A 3.
Mr. Logan?
I'm gonna say 2. It's not a big ticket money item, and it looks like it pays for itself within 2 years, so. How are funds captured now? Or are they not?
Parks are first come, first serve,
So,
when there's an insurance requirement for large events.
I'll say a 2.
One question, you said it integrates with existing systems?
No, to clarify, so if we did upgrade the audio visual, one of the things that you do is you get something called Civics Plus that makes your meetings accessible from the public. For instance, I know I'm backtracking here a little bit, but so if I were to do something that was against the YouTube code, they would take this meeting down and the public would not have access to it. They would have access. They could come here and get our version, I guess, through FOIA. But Civics Plus has a separate thing. It's a software suite that's designed for municipalities and counties like this. So another aspect of Civics Plus is that it does have a parks reservation payment
And
system.
we already have the.
We do not.
Oh,
But if we do upgrade, which sounds like we essentially are need to, that's what we're having.
There's movement. It just depends on if there's appetite.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's almost, there's communication between those systems, even though it's one app essentially.
Correct.
That does everything. So
Two
instead of having
features of one app.
2 different websites, that one is for.
Right, they're not trying to integrate
One
those
is for,
systems.
you just go to one website, you can watch the meetings, you can sign up to rent the park space, and like, you can do it all in one place, which is definitely more user friendly than having like multiple spots that you would have to go and find that information, or, you know, like depending on YouTube or
I
something.
will,
That's another project.
that, yeah, I just mentioned
They're
that.
separate, but
Yeah.
they do have some crossover.
And I will say I get at least 1 or 2 calls a week, people trying to reserve the park for family reunions, celebration of life, weddings, access to the gazebo.
Time where it could be essentially automated and, you know.
Yeah, you sign up for your spot, you pay your fee depending on the scale that the Parks Commission sets forth. And, in some communities, they have, it's kind of like if you're a resident, then fees are waived.
Yeah,
And I would support that.
yeah. I understand. That's cool. Good. Mr. Heiser,
So I got 3.
okay, thank you. Mr. Freaky? 3. I'm gonna go with the 2 because I like that it saves money in the long run. I'm a big proponent of that kind of thing. So that will move us into the parking lot enclosure, which I think is one of the biggest.
Chair Fallon,
Yes, go ahead.
you do have a tie between 3 and 2. So
I will adjust my vote and make it a 3. That drops it to a 3, right?
correct.
We should do that. All right, and this is the Leelanau County, sorry, the next one is the Leelanau County Sheriff's Office lot enclosure, which is a pretty large ask, but also makes a lot of sense from just the justifications that have been presented. So that will go ahead and move down to Mr. Creaky.
I wasn't convinced that this was more than something we should think about when they use, so I give it 3.
Okay. Mr. Heiser?
That'd probably be a 3 as well. I would be a 3, excuse me.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Logan?
I'm gonna go with a 2.
Mr. Rowe? 2. Mr. Nixon?
A 2. Also.
Bailey?
Sure. It seems like if you started closing things, especially in the wintertime, the snowfall, end up with a problem trying to move around inside an enclosure. And are we really having issues of security on our equipment?
The motivation behind this, in terms of drifting snow, it would be part chain link and then part kind of vertical steel or aluminum, and so you're looking for a little bit of weather protection from the vehicles. And then there would be space to push the snow to one end, so it wouldn't be tight up on the parking lot there. We could still push snow that way. And then a couple years back, I served the summer as a Marine deputy, and one of the female Marine deputies was approached after her shift by people coming looking for their brothers or cousins in jail. And although that wasn't a big threat, it is wide open. So it might not be an issue now. It just depends on, when the law enforcement are getting in and out of their cars, they are somewhat vulnerable, that you have access right up to the door of the LEC.
Yeah.
So cameras are not used for that?
I believe there are cameras on it, but
I don't know if they see that well that far out. I don't know.
but the thing is you could conceivably approach an officer directly after their shift. You could walk right up to them, while they're getting in or out of their cars.
Thanks, Pat.
Can I wrote it on the wrong one. I need to go back and change my,
Oh, sorry. So we're on that LCSO.
yes, so I need to change that because I was on a different.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I need it to be a 3 in this one, please.
Okay. Thank you. Jen, you got that? She said 4. Mr. Black.
The road commission right now is putting in 2 new buildings. We value the fact we get our equipment out of the weather and extends the life. I just visualize the police officer going out to the cruiser in this last big storm we had 3 weeks ago. You're out there shoveling the snow off your car, and I'm gonna go with the 1. Personally, you can get your vehicles out of the weather. I just think it's very important.
I'm inclined to agree with Mel on a lot of his points. I think it's really important for the equipment to be accessible, burdening our officers with having to do a bunch of snow removal. I mean, it's part of northern Michigan, but the more I think we can facilitate them being on the road and kind of doing the job instead of the logistics of moving equipment to get out on the road. I'm gonna go with the 2.
Chair Conlon?
Yeah.
We do have a majority tie between 3 and 2, again.
What's the number?
You change? To 2.
Scott is now a 2, and that raises the average to a 2.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on, and the related thing, but also different project is the, I'm sorry, no, my bad, because we're gonna go down here. Jenny, that's right, 2027-07. Okay, sorry, my bad. Leland Dam repairs, definitely important. I will start here with Mr. Black.
I went with 2.
Thank you.
1.
Amelia is
We've
a
seen-
1.
We've seen in the weather
Okay. Mr.
The
Nixon,
dam-
I went with 1 also.
suddenly fail.
2. Mr. Roto, 2. Mr. Logan,
I'm gonna say a 1.
Mr. Kaiser,
1.
Mr. Freaky.
I have a little trouble with this one because I think this is going to be more than an engineering study and a patch job.
I can clarify. So we have a 3-year inspection. It's a comprehensive inspection. The last one was done September this last year, 25. They do the full, this one is done by Spicer. And they found 4 or 5 things that we need to address and monitor. And so what this is for is the engineering services to figure out how to design that, to design the
Yeah,
method.
and that's where I have the problem, right? Because there's something else in here that does a similar thing, where it's a huge project, and we're gonna start off with the engineering services.
Mhm.
And it ignores the design phase and the build phase and all that kind of stuff. Or it doesn't ignore it, but it ignores it in this page.
Right, so,
I'm a 1, right? This is, I think, super important and probably has ramifications all over the county. Right, if the dam was to go, we down on the other end of Lake Leelanau, we're gonna have mud all over the place, right? So the dam has to be as good as possible, or whatever.
I was just gonna talk about the process, because I've had to learn it since I got here last year, that because we don't have, and the county really can't afford to keep an engineer on staff. So we get these problems that are based on these required infrastructure inspections,
Yeah.
From whatever entity it may be. And so then they say, okay, we want you to monitor this.
Yeah.
And so since we don't have an engineer on staff, then we have to do an RFP for engineering services.
Yeah.
And then those people say, well, this is your design, and this is who we could contract. Then we enter another contract with them for project management.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
So
what I'm saying.
yeah.
This number here is the first step.
Correct.
And so it reads like it's a standalone thing. And I'm preaching a little bit, but I mean, I'd like to understand the totality of the project, but if you want to go it by steps, it's. So what I'm afraid of is that we'll do this engineering study and it'll say, well, you ought to get this done in the next couple of years. And so then we put it off for a couple of years.
No, so we have the study that you're describing is a study we already have. That's the 3-year inspection.
Okay.
What we need is the engineered solutions
Yeah.
to this. That's what this is for.
Yeah.
So we have the report on everything that's going on that needs to be done, but designing the repairs, and then they have to be designed, then implemented.
Yes.
And so this does all the design work.
There's 2 different of these, two more pages of this stuff, right?
We'll see the
Next year we'll get
next
the design, next year we'll get the.
Next year, probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today's
And
meeting will have a story.
It's not a comment on what you've done, it's a comment on the process of how you manage these kinds of things. Because this is a huge project.
Yeah, and getting back to one of the things I said earlier, there's kind of a few of those on our,
Yes.
coming down the pipeline for
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Today's paper had a story in there, the government's gonna step in and require inspection of all the dams all over the state of Michigan. So this is,
Well, yeah.
might be a moot point, because it's gonna have to be done.
All right, I am also a 1. I think it's, untenable to figure if Lake Leelanau were to drain, I was down to get it, so. I hope that gives us a 1 on that one. Okay, so we'll do the next new one, and then we're back into, some other, dated older projects. So with that, we are on, sorry, 2027-08, which is county maintenance procedure staff training. It's all stuff that's, yeah.
This might require a little
Okay.
explanation, because this is a new thing. So my background is in Coast Guard aviation. Specifically, I manage life support systems for aviation. And everything that's a no tolerance, no failure kind of situation. And what that allows you to do, because of the way they've set up not only the culture, but by standardizing and centralizing procedures, you can create a consistent product. And after taking on this job, one of the things that I've known, or that I've come to realize, is that the county is growing, and so is its infrastructure. So it's becoming more complex. And so our approaches to maintaining that and upkeeping these things need to be more complex. Now, the good part of the solution is that what I feel like is for not a lot of money, like when the Coast Guard went to bring these systems online for standardizing their training and centralizing their information, they hired consultants for millions of dollars to put it all together. But we're in a unique opportunity here because at the current moment, the man behind me has 40 years of managing county infrastructure. There's another gentleman that we have on contract who is getting close to retirement, named Gary O'Connor, who is here for 21 years and is still here. And then the current maintenance supervisor, Dwayne Flaska, has 11 years of doing this. And as I've had a turnover of 2 maintenance technicians in the last 2 years. And the first one was highly capable. It was a gentleman that I worked with in the Coast Guard, and he came and helped me set up my system, but he's very qualified, very capable. The county can't afford to pay him what he's worth. He moved on. So the next person that we have in now currently is a recent hire, certainly willing, but not with the same technical background, and maybe can't pick it up as quickly. What standardization allows us to do is to create standard operating procedures. This is how we do maintenance. This is how we inspect the wastewater treatment plant. These are the emergency procedures for the wastewater treatment plant. And the timing of this is also synergistic with the policies software that's being brought online. It's known as, it's right down here at the end. Where is it? I think it's on the longer version, not this one, but it's the policy software that they would like to implement to make sure that everybody is aware of county policies. The sheriff's department has its own policies for its members. And so what I am trying to do here is create, thank you. Because we have this unique kind of eclipse of all this knowledge in one place before we lose it, I want to capture it. So basically I'm trying to download everything, and Dwayne is certainly capable of doing that, but it's like asking a surgeon to, teach medicine while he's doing surgery. So what I proposed here is to pay Mr. Coleman for his time. I only had 2 months with him, barely that, over Christmas when I took over this position. And basically get, so similar to the Coast Guard, and I can explain this until you're really sick of hearing me talk about it. So that you can refer to these things. So for instance, our new hire, I can say, go read the procedures for the wastewater treatment plant. It also gives the county liability protection. Recently, there was an employee who was let go for not following standard procedures. Well, where are they written? So that could come back to haunt us. You can, I just think it's a really good system. I'm trying to lay it out as logically I can, but I told you, like, I championed 2 or 3 during my budget, and this is one that I will be championing.
Thanks, Patrick. I just want to add something, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this really sounds a lot like beyond just you're trying to maintain that knowledge, but it's also there's asset management involved in a lot of this stuff, and emergency preparedness, which are like critical aspects of how a government should run. And so for me, it definitely seems pretty important. So I appreciate
This is a modern model for the way our modern systems works. We are regulated up to the eyeballs, and at any time, Miyoshi can come in and say, "Where's your records for this, that, and the other thing?" And it's
SOPs and all that stuff.
It's much easier to just work it into the culture where you're doing a little bit of a time. It's all archived on the software that they plan on bringing on board anyways. It just really streamlines our processes. And they're always available to be revised. So once we get our base down, we can add new assets, write the standard operating procedures and requirements, all the safety requirements for those. If we find better ways of doing things, we can revise them every year, or emergency revisions. So I just really think it's a playbook for very important parts of the county.
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Creepy?
You convinced me. I came in, well, let me say it differently. I don't think this is a capital expenditure, but if that's the only way you can get the money, I think what you want to do or what you're talking about is absolutely crucial to the operation of the county. So I'm voting one.
Thank you, Mr. Creepy. Mr. Heiser?
One, can we make recommendations of other departments to apply the same?
I got enough on my plate right now, but
Well, I'll send you a note.
Well, bless Mr. Yoder.
maybe it'll spread. I don't know.
Mr. Logan?
I'll go with one.
This is a very important project. I'm a real believer that before you have any kind of control over your systems, is that you have to say what you're gonna do, then you have to demonstrate that you're doing what you said you did. It's pretty basic management system stuff. I came close to calling it a one, but I called it a two because under one, it requires completely correcting an existing condition. And this won't completely ever do it because it's a continual improvement effort. as you
That's true.
mentioned.
Yep.
So I call it two.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Mr. Nixon?
I wrestled between a 2 and a 1, but I appreciate your comments and I'll vote it as a 1.
Thank you.
Clearly a
Ms. Bailey?
one.
Mr. Black?
I'm gonna stay with one.
I'm also a 1. Brings us to the 4. This is very similar to the other request. Yeah, get stuff out of the weather, making sure that they have places to work on things. Like, thinking about efficiency. So with that being said,
With
Mr. Black?
I'm going to,
Bailey?
Make it a 3. I always wondered when the sheriff ordered that really expensive boat, it would seem like it would require a climate controlled facility. It was like more than just the boat. Why didn't they talk about it at all at that time?
The big push for my personal agenda for this is to get our barn back. So if we move all the sheriff's marine fleet into a separate barn and take care of the large safe boat, we get our space back to preserve our vehicles. And we also can create load cages and storage for items that right now we're losing space for. We have basically one space down, they call it the ugly room, the utility room. And that is the last space where we can build out offices. So we're probably going to lose that probably in the next 5 or 10 years would be my guess. And so this opens up stuff for my department. So yes, it is for the sheriff, but it's for me to get the space back and the protection for my vehicles.
And what's the difference between renting a climate controlled space versus building it?
Well, as it relates to the safe boat, they have a relationship with Sutton's Bay Fire Department. They have one bay that it's stored in, I think, along with the antique fire truck. They're winter roommates. But I think getting it so that it's on site and you can do all the maintenance over the winter on site, I think is really important. You save, when you hire contractors to come in, you can get it done during the slow season, and it's just general good operating space too. And because you have to play this game of Jenga to get things in and out of there. At the shoulder seasons in spring and the fall, if there is a case that warrants bringing it out, it's available. It's not wrapped up somewhere. You can pull it in and out quickly.
Mr. Nixon?
I gave it a 2.
Mr. Ruddle? 4. Mr. Logan?
3.
Mr. Heiser? 2. Reedy?
First of all, I guess I would like to thank you for coming to the meeting. Changed my mind a couple of times. I really appreciate what you're trying to do. And with that, I'm gonna go with a 2.
Okay. I'm also a 2. Until
Until you vote.
Okay, moving on to 26-13 waterfront access. This is the ADA compliance system for the dock on Glen Lake. That being said, let's start with Mr. Creepy.
What's OSP?
Old Settlers Park.
Oh, yeah, okay, okay. I'll go with the two.
Mr. Hyder.
Your best comments on parks.
And so basically, we out of all the, I know I shouldn't be looking at the funds, all the funds, we're our county's only for 60.
This is the correction that I made. in the
90,
beginning.
went to
Yeah,
90, okay.
so the county's on the hook for about 93,650. And we asked the Grand Traverse Band to fund most of the ADA compliant parts for $80,000.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
a couple other pieces to this is that we were looking at replacing the gazebo until we found out that it was fine to have it the way it is, because it was close enough to a similar ADA compliant structure. So we were going to buy a new gazebo for about 160,000 in 27. We don't have to do that now. We looked at rebuilding a ramp and the stairs alone for that section. The stairs need to be done. They're fairly treacherous. We patch them the best we can. And that was going to be about 100,000. And so I've kind of compiled it into one thing, and then adding the component that allows ADA and also the senior community. I kayak with a gentleman that this would help greatly. You know, being able to get into kayaks and things through the assistant and this dock program. I think it's a great project, and if the Grand Traverse Band is willing to help us out with it, I think that adds a lot of value to Old Settlers Park.
So I'm probably going two on that.
Mr. Logan.
I'm on Glen Lake, I'm right down the street from Settlers, and it's been a thing for a long time, so I'll go with two. It's needed, definitely the stairs are needed. Lake access is a thing that they can use, so two.
Thank you. Mr. Rowe, 3. Mr. Nixon.
A two?
Spade.
Well, one, seems like with the ADA compliant feature, it could be right for grant applications. Besides the tribe.
Good. Now 2. I went back and forth on this one a little bit. Anytime these types of improvements are made, we always have to be, cognizant of the ADA compliance, and, if you're not making any modifications, then sometimes we get away with. We should include as many folks as we can in our parks. So I think it's a good idea. I struggle, but I guess let's see how it shakes out. I'll say it's 1. If I need to. Okay, move on. This is another universally accessible trail for the Parks and Rec. This is at Veronica Valley. And, similar to the previous one, but just a different part. So that start here with Supervisor.
Yeah.
Number one, we've already received the MDNR trust fund grant, right? And so I'm always collaborating or encouraging collaboration with Bingham Township, because this is an important part for them, and they may have access to some funds or grant applications, and the Conservancy owns a lot of the property south of that part. And so trying to, if you're doing trail connections, why not collaborate if there are trails on their property so that we link up customer using the park is not gonna see where the property line is, they're just using the park.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Mr. Nixon,
Two,
Mr. Ruddle, 3. Mr. Logan,
3.
Mr. Heiser.
Probably 3. 3, excuse me.
Mr. Creaky.
I have a question if I'm reading this right. The CIP ID number is 2024. Does that mean that it was initially requested in 24 and then again in 25? And now, so it's been turned down twice already.
That would be my understanding. This was probably initially, there's a timeline. It can only be on the CIP. 6 years, thank you. So as long as it is, within a 6-year period, we'll continue to see these.
I inherited these, some of these were part of the master parks plan that was put out, and I was asked to revise these. So a lot of these were brought along with that planning.
St. Mary's is gonna make it their home course for their cross-country course too, so. I like that.
One,
I'm a 2.
let's get it done. Give her a second.
The next one
Chair
is,
Conlon, we have a majority tie between 3 and 2.
I'll be a 1. Okay, the next one is our Miles Kimmerly
Oh,
Park.
Chair Conlon.
Yes.
No, it's a tie between 1 and 3.
Does that just make it a 2 then? Yeah,
If you would like, I can.
That's fine.
that's what I would say.
That's fine.
Okay, so we are on the pickleball and lot, 8 courts, parking for 60 vehicles. This has been talked about for a while. I mean, it's a great park, and I think, a lot of us really care about our parks. So with that being said, I'll go down to Mr. Creaky.
I'm gonna give it a 2 for the same reason. I mean, if it keeps coming back every year and turned down, either we're gonna do it or let's get rid of it.
Understood. Mr. Heiser?
6 times. It's gotta be a 3.
Okay. Mr. Logan?
I'm gonna go with a 2.
Mr. Ruddle? 3. Mr. Nixon?
a 4,
Mr. Bailey?
3.
Mr. Black?
3.
I'm gonna be a 2. Next one is another one that has been recycled a couple times. If anyone's familiar with Veronica Valley Park, there's a couple porta potties there. One is a ADA compliant. And I go there a fair bit, so I recognize it's nice to have any bathroom there, but it's just not, it's not a great setup. And there's gravel parking lot, and so I think it's, if we're gonna put bathrooms there and have an ADA one there, then that needs to be actually accessible. So I think it's pretty important personally, but I don't wanna, that's just for those who maybe don't know about what that kind of looks like, or whatever. With that, I'll say, start with you, Mr. Black.
Then go with the 3.
I say 3.
I said 3 also.
3. Mr. Reynolds at 3. Logan,
3.
Mr. Heiser, 3. Creaky.
2.
All right, I'm a 3. Much as I like it. Okay, we have another one for Miles Kimmerly Park. This is an older one. Well, new pavilion, picnic tables, some ADA compliant space, pathways, basically updating what's kind of already there. Is that an additional structure, or is that?
Yes, I believe it's an additional structure with more spaces, and it it does some earth engineering to make to expand the accessible parking lot to 5,000 square feet with 10 to 12 ADA compliant spaces, compliant pathways, and using stormwater best management practices.
And just for my own visualizing that, you kind of pull into Miles Kimberly, is that gonna go kind of on the left side there, or you guys aren't sure?
Let me I did this a while ago. I'm trying to figure out where it was, on which side it was.
There's kind of a baseball diamond right there. In any case, I was just trying to visualize it for myself, because I know there's a couple of structures there already, and there's some tennis
Have
courts.
they done the disc golf course there now?
Yeah, we've upgraded the practice course. I think there was some other, there were other updates that they wanted to make, but that was something we got done, I think, last year, or no, by fall. I think we got done third quarter.
Cool. Want to go down to Mr. Creaky?
Once again, the keeps getting kicked down the road. And parks are the image setters, so I'm giving it a 2.
Thank you. Mr. Heiser? 3. Mr. Logan?
2.
Mr. Rowe?
4.
Mr. Nixon?
3.
Ms. Bailey?
Good, 3 or 4. The durable pavilion, if I look at that park plan, it looks like they, I would say the pavilion should go over by where the playground equipment is and the parking lot and everything there.
I'm trying to remember if this is the one that was adjacent to the ball fields.
Yeah, I know, and I thought it should be to the other side. But it's only me. I inherited that park plan too. I wasn't part of it to begin with.
It's a plan, it's not a contract, so you guys can change it, yeah.
I said one of the doors, please.
You
There's a
say
three in there.
3 or you?
Yeah, 3.
3 here. Thank you. I'm also 3. Yeah, that brings us to our last CIP, which is the practice playground, or sorry, replacing the playground equipment at Miles Kimberly Park. And I think we had a discussion about this last year, and there was some concern about the condition. And to me, I mean, yeah, like kids are playing on it and stuff, so should probably be either get rid of it, or, you know, fix it or whatever. So with that being said, we can start your review, Mr. Black.
You go over the 3, I'd like to see it done.
Yeah. Ms. Bailey?
I'll say 2, but if you look at what Herman Park is fundraising right now, is that correct, Mr. Nelson? Fundraising right now for this, exactly this kind of playground equipment. And where did I see the pictures of it? Somewhere. It's pretty elaborate. It's not like playground equipment that we do. So if you could collaborate with them and you could get a deal, if we both buy playground equipment from
They
this
could get some grant.
supplier. I think their price was 350. You got 200 here, so.
That was a 2. Yep.
2, it's a 2,
Mr.
yeah.
Nixon?
I gave it a 4 because I didn't see a lot of information on the door itself that was answered. So I left a lot of begging questions. So I gave it a 4.
All right, Mr. Rowe. Mr. Logan?
2.
The condition.
Lois might have to help me out here, because we got the grant for one set of ADA equipment. Which was that for? The one that they're writing the contract out with.
Huh.
Was this for Miles Kimberly?
I'm lost.
Yeah. So they got, and I think.
We're putting a certain kind of wood chip down below and improving the playground areas because of the safety issues and the type of.
Right. This, unfortunately, this is one of the ones that I inherited that they wanted to get on the schedule. It wasn't on the schedule. I thought that this one was for the one that we got the grant for, the MDNR. And this is the one where they bring in someone to do all the contracting for us for the award.
Did I miss a meeting?
Well, Lauren Cipher has been in the middle of this, and I think it was for this one. But I apologize, I didn't have a lot of information to go on with this one either.
So I'll go with three.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Creaky. Well, same story, right? This is the 2023. Right? And kick down the road and kick down the road. And since this is the last one, I have one other comment before you go. A number of these, particularly in the parks and recreation area, are competing with each other. And so I think it's, I guess maybe even a recommendation to the board that rather than piecemeal each of these things, give the parks and recreation folks a certain amount of capital based on some of these things and let them do what they can do and sort it out for themselves. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with this gentleman as to how he's laid all of this out and explained what he wants to do and all that kind of stuff. Let the man run, right? You know, give him a bunch of money and say, you know, this is what you wanted to do. You know what's more important than we do. We're just kind of guessing. So with all that, this is another two.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Creaky. I know for sure this has been talked about before, and if I remember correctly, that Mr. Yoder last year, if not the year before, said that the playground equipment was in pretty bad shape. I intend to believe, you know, that you would say that if it was inaccurate. Now we're at least a year, if not maybe 2 years later, so I'd be concerned about what the condition is now. And with that being said, I think, you know, as much as it's hard to, you know, go from just like 4 or whatever it is, I think I'm a 2. I'd like to be a 2. Let's do that. And if there's no issue, that will bring our CIP proposal session here to a close.
One more comment before we
Go ahead, Mr. Creaky.
last year and the year prior, we spent a lot of time talking about vehicles. Vehicles for the sheriff, vehicles for we don't have vehicles here this year.
Yeah, and I think,
Right.
Patrick, you could probably fill us in. They've essentially allocated the vehicles that they needed, and we'll probably see some next year, following year.
I know that there's debate now over what they're going to do with the patrol vehicles, if they're going to do contract or if they're going to do purchasing. We've been very blessed in the maintenance department. We've gotten quite a few new vehicles. There is one that's kind of looking a little ragged, but in fact, Dwayne might be upset with me. They didn't put one in for this year, but there's a lot of, I think, other things on the priority, and we just got 2 new vehicles.
Mhm.
I mean, I think in succession, we got one in 24 and 25, or maybe it was 22 and 25.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so, and we were able to leverage an insurance payout. Someone ran into one of our tractors, and we were able to sell that one to offset costs on a new one. And so we have been blessed with new vehicles that will require less maintenance. As these things arise, if we feel we need them, I know that they'd like to get maybe another quad to do work so they don't have to move them back and forth. But I think a lot of these other things that we brought up here tonight are taking precedence this season.
The point I wanted to make is that there are no vehicles this year. That means there's probably going to be a bunch of them next year, right? So this is the year to get the parks improvements in place. Well, because the vehicles are going to squeeze it out.
I can't necessarily disagree with you. We'll provide the board
Yeah, we give them
with our stuff and hope that they, you know, they're the ones that will decide what the budget goes. I think it's a maybe a reasonable conversation for the Board of Commissioners to have about if they want to allocate a certain, I'm not gonna go there per se, but I don't think it's a terrible idea. And that takes a little bit of the back and forth and things out. And again, I mean, there could be good sides to both of those situations, but I think it's reasonable, you know, they'll look at our minutes and hopefully have a discussion about it. So with that, we'll move out of our second, we'll move out of our CIP proposed projects, and we'll talk about our fourth and final new business item, which is the topic for our annual planning session. Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks for letting me participate.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Jenny, do you have anything for that business item?
We don't have any items configured. We thought maybe to hear some feedback from you, so we know we have direction of where to proceed. We don't have a date either. That would depend on what the topic is and who the guest speaker would be, and we'd work out a date that works for everyone.
Now, open the floor to discussion. If anybody has any ideas, please share for a potential topic. And then I think we've generally done them in October.
Sometime in the fall, I think last year was November.
And that was because of scheduling, you know, issues, but, you know, if there's conflict there, let's have that discussion. You know, for me, I work in the wine industry still, so fall is a very busy time of year, but also I've been able to make it work essentially every year. So I'm not gonna try to rock the boat with the scheduling, but if other folks may have conflicts that time of year, let's talk about it.
I'm wondering, does Mary?
Riley.
Mary what?
Riley?
Right, is she, I know she's a contact for you out of Michigan State Extension. I wonder if she has a dog and pony show right now that she's promoting.
We can
That
certainly reach out.
topically, it might be interesting for us to react to that. She generally does a pretty good job. I'd be curious to know what Michigan State Extension is concerned about right now.
I'd like to see us have a conversation about what we're gonna do about Parks and Recreation. Right, if we're gonna keep getting kicked down the road, then to me, this is a big looming issue, so I'd like to see it. It must be what's in time.
Yeah, and we can add it to a potential, you know, to a list of potential topics. Go ahead, Mr. Hyden.
I don't know if there's anyone studying this in the county or other counties about, but it's sustainability. For the county, what services we need to sustain, because we're talking about affordable housing and bring people, we need to understand what we need to have a sustainable county to support the population. I think we need to be educated on that, would be helpful in the requirements associated.
Mr. Rowe?
Yeah, I mean, we live on a peninsula and we're affected by, water bodies on three sides effectively. I'd like to know what other bodies, governmental bodies are doing in terms of the technical aspects of stabilizing the banks, the economic impacts and the costs of that as well. And what those long-term consequences are if we don't know what those are and are going to act.
It's a great idea as well. Mr. Nixon, you mentioned, is that the woman from last year?
Mary Riley.
Yes,
Yeah.
and she did the presentation
She did.
last fall. I would second the recommendation of her to maybe give us some ideas. I think we've all had heard some pretty good ideas here tonight already, but I would be curious with her kind of, fingers on the pulse of kind of precedent issues that are of the time. And I think she may have some good ideas too, so.
Could I make a comment?
Go ahead.
I just say that recently the Board of Commissioners has put out a request for proposals for strategic planning, and a lot of the things that you brought up here tonight, I would pay close attention to how they're tracking that. I believe they got a lot of responses. And a lot of the issues you're talking about would be elements of strategic planning, and, you know, that's a great thing to bring up with your commissioner.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Kevin. Any further discussion?
Well, and the two topics that I always come up with are housing and energy. So, you know, knowing about what the world's doing in the energy world and how it applies to us. Issues concerned with housing come in front of us, and that's a hot topic.
Mhm.
And then as for Park and Rec, you always wonder if the citizens would support a small millage to support our parks. I mean, we are overwhelmingly always support senior services when that millage comes up.
Mhm.
So
It's a reasonable question to ask.
everybody's always kind of scared about asking the people to tax themselves, but they seem to be willing to do that.
That's a fair point. Mel, you have anything to add with that, or?
Not too much other than the fact, I like the very fact that our county is one of the a destination for people out of state going on vacations. We got to keep that in mind because we don't want to lose that, the people that bring dollars and cents into our community when they come here to enjoy their vacation. All that. Gotta keep it in mind.
Thanks, Mr. Black. I will, unless there's any other comments, go ahead.
For you.
Yeah, no worries.
Hi, my name is Jerry Coleman, former maintenance director. How y'all doing? Regarding your thoughts on the Leland Dam, it is, and what Pat brought up, is very important. Things that are going on down there can go fast. I know if there's initial rush of water, the mouth of the Leland River is going to dictate after a few days, will dictate the flow because it hasn't been dredged. So that's a whole nother story, another can of worms. The engineering firm that we always use was Machine Engineering, he handles dams all over the country. He's a local guy from Traverse City. And the other thing, I'm not putting a plug in, but I'm just saying, we have someone that we used, and then you get other people coming on board, commissioners, and someone has an idea and somebody knows a guy. Next thing you know, it goes like this, you know, so we have an engineer, but then, well, let's see, check somebody else out. You run into that, we all know that. The other thing is the law enforcement situation with protecting the cars and people coming out of the jail, out of the, road patrol. We all know where that's at. There's a lot of staging area and training goes on downstairs. People come in, but you have outside people coming in the front door that can still access the side of the building where the cars are. I mean, life has changed, in years. We all know that. I know it costs money, but give them protection. You get people coming out of the jail, a control room, they call it, that's back in the jail. They're not dressed to carry a lot of weapons and stuff. They're coming out after 12, 14-hour shifts and they're going to their car, but it's a wide open game for them, So what you're thinking about and talking about, it is an important issue. It always has been. It's gotten worse in regards to the possibility of things going awry. And if you folks can help preempting that, that'd be great. One more thing too. When I was part of hiring Pat and putting a plug in for Pat because he's taken, I've always worked over 40 some years, on the spot working, things need fixed, okay, but it always was up here. We all know that. We've all gone through it. We've lived it. But he's brought the elevated position to the point of what he's talking about of whether me or anybody else, I don't care. But I want to help. I love the job. I didn't really want to leave, but I knew that time was someone that could bring it to a higher level. And Pat's done that. So we can give you a manual, and say, here, we need this done. You can look at the manual and you can find out procedure. And there's points where you can say, well, we need to call an expert in per se, like Gary O'Connor, somebody that handles HVAC and high-tech stuff. But Pat, Dwayne, Jordan, and there's a new gentleman, They're very capable. I'm happy that I was able to hand it off, but he's brought the position to a higher level, which is good. We need that, and you know that, but I just want to say, hey, and I sit here, my mouth goes dry like it has for 44 years. And thank you.
We appreciate
I
you.
appreciate you too. You guys got your hands full. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it.
Lois and I are on the Parks and Rec committees, and we really appreciate Pat. He comes into every meeting, he's well prepared every time he comes.
All right, and we'll get out of that new business and we'll get into reports. I believe there was a general plan committee meeting this afternoon. If someone wants to be the representative
We
there.
almost finished chapter 10.
Excellent.
Thundering
Thank you.
along.
Take care. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we got through 10, another month.
I don't know how many more chapters are there. Can't even remember.
I don't remember if there's 12 or 15. There's 15, but
Yeah.
it starts to dwindle down.
2/3 of the way. Good.
In a
Well, thanks
year
for
and a
your service and continue the good work, y'all. And Lois, I'm gonna lean on you again as a Parks and Rec representative.
We do seem to be very productive and active, so, yeah, I'm excited to be there. As you said, yeah.
No report
Well,
otherwise.
you-
We heard it.
Yeah, you've done the CIPs, and a lot of them are part related.
We'll
And
lean
I
on you
always do
again next
wonder
month.
if, you know, with the number of acres of parks we have, and the funding is always squeezing us down, that maybe a millage would be the way to go. But that's a painful suggestion to make.
I may let you champion that.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. No, thank you, Lois. Appreciate all you do. Moving on, any communications?
Yes, so we did receive this letter. This is a notification that the Charter Township of Elmwood Township Board has approved the distribution of a draft comprehensive master plan for the Charter Township of Elmwood. The draft is available for review and comments. It is available on our website, the county website, and an open house regarding the proposed project, or I'm sorry, the proposed plan will be held May 12th from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Elmwood Township Hall.
Thank you very much, Jenny. I let him go because I didn't realize he was gonna make public comment at that point, but that's fine. I don't believe we have any additional public comments this evening. Jenny, do you have any further staff comments?
Yes, so Gail and I both passed our zoning administrator certificate program exam through MSU. It's like 160 questionnaire, we did it.
Nice, congratulations.
Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, commissioner comments. Anybody have any comments they'd like to make? Rob?
Yeah, I just want to start with a story, because this relates to the comments in there earlier. When I was interested in being a member of this body, I sat for, I think, November, maybe it was October, November meetings and listened. During that time, the cultural overlay was discussed for Leland. And what came out of there was, so I listened very closely to what the words that were being said, was a recommendation to approve. A week or two later, I get newsletters from the old art building. So a week or two later, I got an email that said, the planning commission approved the cultural overlay. And I started, at the same time I was taking the citizens planning course. And so I brought that question up and I said, what are the roles and responsibilities of the planning commission? What are our authorities for being able to make decisions? And that was a discussion I had with the course leader. And he sent me back an email and he said, here's the Michigan Planning Enabling Act and the language that defines our authorities. approval is not one of those words. What was clearly put in there was what comes out of all of our meetings and reviews of what we review is a statement. The term is a statement of consistency to the general plan. And other comments that we want to make. So I think it's important for us to understand that. And I'd like to have a request, or I'd like to make a request, if staff could do some research and find out what the language is, so we know what those authorities are. So I think it's important also for people that we represent to come here thinking that we're going to actually have an authority to approve something. And so the language that also comes out in the minutes is recommendation for approval. We don't have authority to approve anything.
That's right.
And so I brought this up earlier, and it relates to Lois's declaration of a perceived conflict of interest. So and here's where I struggle with this. I think maybe this could go on the agenda next time. We could have a discussion about this, because I can understand, Don, what you said and why you think why Lois should not participate. I would also think that way if I was a general member of the public, because people are going to use that. Oh, Lois is approving something and her husband is Peninsula Housing. All kinds of issues fall out of that would be unfortunate. So I see this as an opportunity for us to communicate that each time we have a meeting at the beginning. Here's what we will accomplish today. Here's what you can expect the results to be. To let people know this is what we are tasked to do. And it's pretty simple in the Michigan Planning Enabling Act about what we can say. Approval is not one of those words. And so just get back to what Lois, she has a perceived conflict of interest. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you need to declare it because it doesn't sound like you're hiding anything.
That's absolutely. Yeah. But is it actual? No. Lois, this body has no authority to approve anything. So in fact, I bet most of the time it would be very rare. That's just a guess. That might be an overstatement, that there will ever be an actual conflict of interest.
Well, in Tom's situation, you're actually voting on another board. Yeah, so that's different.
Yep. But even in that case.
Well, and I appreciate all the comments, but what, and this is, we've talked about this at length to some extent too, prior to your service as well, Mr. Rowe, but because I had the same concerns early into my tenure here, but it was always to me about following like the rule, right? And so you're obviously, well-educated with citizen planner training. The language of being a recommendatory body, I think, allows us to recommend whatever they're proposing. So if they're proposing an approval, because at the end of the day, we're not approving anything, we're just recommending them that like they have. So I get your concern that the language isn't as distinct as maybe as it should be, but I also, in the interest of just getting the business done, I think there has to be a certain ambiguity, almost like, just because otherwise, I can certainly, I'm not opposed to it, of making a statement at the beginning of every meeting of this board is not an approving body. We don't have the authority to approve any kind of change, or that's not our purpose here. What our purpose is to essentially fact check all of the different things that the township, the applicant has brought forward, and just essentially double check it for those folks to say yes or no. And if any one of those questions is a no along the way, then it's back to the drawing board for those folks.
And I think that's consistent with the other comments that can be made.
So what I would say in light of your comments, and I agree that I think at the very least, we need to have a bit more of a discussion about that and figure out a way to make sure that the public understands, you can bring a horse to water, you don't necessarily have, can't necessarily force them to drink, but if it's unclear for us, then how clear is it gonna be for folks who, aren't is what's at first maybe on the governmental policies and the intricacies of how these things operate. And so I appreciate your comments. I would say I would like to maybe have Gail's leadership in kind of navigating that conversation, and unless there's some other staff, I just don't think that I'm qualified to necessarily impose any kind of direction other than what we currently do. So that's where I appreciate all the comments. I think it's an important
That's why I'd like to
conversation.
have staff
So I
do
would,
some research on.
I would lean on staff to propose something for me, and then I can add it to the agenda.
I've been on it for a couple of years. We don't approve, but what we do, we quite often make a motion to send our comments on to their board. And we can influence the board with our comments.
Right.
So, yeah, we don't approve, but we can cause their board to rethink maybe their position.
And then just to cross all our Ts that have been brought up in this very moment, and then I'd like to maybe try to get out of this meeting if you can. But just frankly, when it comes to conflicts of interest, and again, I think this might be an important discussion. This might be a training, maybe that's a training option. I mean, I hate to use our annual training for something like that, but I mean, if it has aspects, I don't know, maybe it ties in to another piece of what we would do as a training. I don't think it's maybe not standalone training, but just kind of spitballing a little bit. But also what I wanted to kind of wrap up with is my understanding of that is that there is a gray area. And even talking with Steve and other folks that have a lot more experience in government than I do, there is kind of it's just the nature of this type of thing. And so I think as commissioners, it's our duty to recognize if we think we have a conflict of interest and other board members voice concerns, that we act accordingly. And ultimately, I do kind of have to say, but I'm not, unless it was an extremely clear, essentially violation of, someone is clearly part of whatever. I haven't seen that.
And let me
Go
just
ahead,
follow
Mr.
up.
Nixon,
I was gonna say-
sorry, go ahead.
I think you've got two topics. One being conflict of interest, the other, what powers does a planning commission have or doesn't have? Whether it's the county planning commission or a local township planning commission, Jenny, the issue of authority is in both of those categories. As a member of a local planning commission, we don't have authority to change language. We can propose it to our board, which is similar to what the discussion is here. So I think, Brian, you've got two topics that we could ask Ms. Riley again that might address that would appeal to a number, or should, a number of planning commissioners in our county that probably wrestle with the same issues. She could certainly emphasize the role of the county planning commission versus the role of a local township, and have that kind of machination of discussion. And she could certainly talk about how to define conflict of interest. And I would guess all planning commissions, all governing bodies, frankly, wrestle with that.
So you don't think-
Just to add on to that too, that also, and this is directly connected to what Mr. Nixon was talking about, would be how do we convey that to the public? Right? We may get a good understanding of what our job is or whatever, but unless we can convey that out to the constituents and the public, then we're gonna be kind of in the same boat.
Well, it's
People are gonna be upset, or they're gonna be-
institutionally ingrained in most of our public that this body is the authority, a governing authority, and has some power to say yes or no on proposals that come to us. And I think that's
Which
almost
is a
part of the culture.
misconception, for sure.
Yeah, and even though we might run a workshop, we're not going to get those ingrained attitudes removed very easily.
No,
That goes back to the local planning commission.
Yeah.
The local boards of trustees to be able to emphasize that in their communities about, look, we send it to the county simply for their review and their opinions. And if they're good and we like them, we adopt them. If they're no good, we
they're
don't.
not bound by it.
No, and we don't even have to look at them if you don't want to
Yeah,
either.
right.
Which is really.
One quick point.
I saw, Mr. Creaky, were you still, sorry?
Yeah, I want to go back to the overlay. And the reason why that was critical in my mind. 90% of the time, the stuff that comes in here, just like tonight, is not controversial, right? And it goes through, and whether our motions are clear or not clear or any of that, doesn't really matter. Right?
People aren't really invested in it.
Yeah, yeah, and there's no hue and cry, and but on the overlay, there were people here from the public petitioning us to vote yes or no on whether this should take place. And to your position, that's not our business, right? That's one point. So when, at least when there's controversy, we have to be very careful, right? The second was that if we're going to make motions, irrespective of what they say, they should address the question that's in front of the board. And typically they don't. You find the conflicts or the potential conflicts in the minutes. It's taken care of in the minutes, and so to my mind, that kind of solves it. But the motion quite often is silent on the question that's before the board. So maybe we talk about what's the question before the board before we take a vote. It's just as simple as that.
Right.
You know.
I think they're good suggestions. Go ahead, Mr. Rowe.
So I looked into this, I read it clearly, and there's one place that it says, when we do a review, that a statement of consistency come up.
Yeah.
Right, and other comments. So the other things that we do, the things you talked about, the other comments are okay. But we should at least ensure that we're making a statement of consistency. And that's what we're required to do.
Yes, I do hear what you're saying. I do feel that there is heavy discussion on this and that this should be maybe tabled for an
That's fine.
agenda item
Yeah.
maybe next month.
Yeah,
Great.
if we can get it, if it's not gonna get forgot about, trust me.
Yeah,
So if it's not on the next meeting, we'll, I'm sure I'll hear about it. But I'd like to do it right.
Could I also ask,
Yes,
Jenny, would you prepare a model motion that this body should embrace? And in effect, what it should say, so that we might have something to react to?
Absolutely, I'll
You're-
discuss this with you.
Great. That would be helpful for me.
excellent.
Tom, the road commission, we do that. We got one guy that makes almost all of our motions. And it's the
We don't
same-
want that, we don't want that.
And I like it.
All right, I do only have one very brief comment, and you guys know I'm on the Leelanau Township Planning Commission now. I am also the CBA representative for that board at this point. So I was asked by the township supervisor, and I, told him before, so that's another role that I will be filling. That it's an as needed basis. We haven't met yet. I don't have anything to report, but if I do later on, you guys will hear about those things. So with that, I think we can adjourn. Thanks, you guys.
Should be.